back to me here.
Yes, no.
We are redirected. I like it. Okay. Yay! Redirected to YouTube. Yay! Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. It's Friday.
Friday. It's always a good thing.
Well, if if Friday matters, I mean, some
Yeah.
days it feels like every day's just the same. So
Nowadays, it feels very much like that, doesn't it? Yes.
it does.
Yeah. Huh.
Um,
Huh.
we thought we'd talk about physical stress today.
Yes.
We talked about the um, the subject of stress, and it's so vast that you really have to break it down into discernible pieces because stress, whether it's physical or emotional, affects everything. But we decided to start with physical stress this morning. So
Yeah, physical. I mean, you can't really separate it from the mental, emotional, environmental, whatever. Stress is stress, and stress, maybe as a definition, is what puts us off balance in some way. And sometimes it's tangible, physical, we can feel it. Sometimes it's not so noticeable, it's subtle. So, for example, sitting in front of your computer for 6 hours is a stress on your vision, on your physical, because of electromagnetics that come toward you, but you're not aware of it. You're just working on the computer. However, physically, you might start feeling headachy, tired, become less focused and efficient, start, browsing instead of like paying attention, whatever your task is on. Um, you might
conveniently
feel,
distracted.
yeah. So physically, that kind of subtle stressor to you might be associated with, wow, I'm just getting a headache, or my neck and shoulders are getting tight and tense, and it could be position too. It's not always, just the electromagnetics. Could be a combination of things, or what you're reading and that kind of thing. And then there's lots of books out there too, as far as mental emotional connection on a physical level, like the second brain, molecules of emotion, where it takes what we think we are feeling as an emotion, what is unique to us, in fact, our response to something, and they put it on a very physical level and say, you're just secreting this hormone, you're secreting those enzymes, you're turning this off. It's a very physical, biological response. So what we perceive as a sense of us and our responses and our experience that we react to or we respond to can be brought down just to biology and just say, oh, okay, it's just a physical thing. So that's why when we say pay attention to things that stress you or try and get rid of stress, what we're really trying to do is adapt our bodies so that stressors don't take us down. They don't accumulate and break us down more. We can be exposed to all kinds of things, changes weather. I mean, just like a tree, it's cold, it's hot, it's windy, it's rainy. And so if we can experience that too, but we need to be flexible and adaptable. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, so here's a change, but we can adapt to it and keep doing what we do as a tree or a person or a computer tech or mom or grounds worker or whatever it is we're going to do. We need to be able to keep doing it, but adapt. And that's the primary thing, is adapt to it, and ideally on an unconscious way. So there's like levels of stress, there's phases of stress. So the first phase is one that we're just not conscious of. We adapt to it and we don't even know it. So it's like we worked a little too long and then we just got some good sleep and we adapted to it. So we didn't even think, oh, I'm tired. We're just like, wake up refreshed and we're good. And that's also like a kid, like they stumble on their knees or something, scrape their knee, wah, and then they're, oh, butterfly, and the next thing you know,
Right,
they're
they're
fine, right?
distracted
So
to something else.
totally
Yeah.
distracted, they're adapted to it, it's not a big deal. They brought it into their system and it was just part of normal now. And so that's kind of a level one unconscious type of stress. The secondary stress is where we are aware of it. It's like, oh, I had a deadline, I really had to get that done, I maybe drank some extra coffee, I got some stomach acid in going here, I'm getting neck tension, I'm aware, I'm rubbing, but we know that we're going to recover from it. So we just put into place whatever technique or tool that will fix that. So we might use some cream on here, or get a massage, or get some acupuncture, chiropractic, or just get some rest, and we will be fine, or eat better. Then we recover. So it's conscious but recoverable, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Then we go to a third stage where, and this is really noticeable when people are used to doing multiple things, those multitaskers that say yes all the time, those people that are able to do this and this, and just other people are amazed, like, oh my gosh, how do you do it all? Well, they do for a finite amount of time. What happens is they will hit a wall because they're taking on the stresses and they're adapting, but they're not restoring. They're not recovering. So that one day, just one thing just and takes them
Yeah.
down. Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be physical fatigue. It could be eye strain. I have to get my glasses adjusted. It could be chronic or constant neck pain or back pain or whatever, body pain, tendinitis, like cashier, people who do repetitive things. Okay.
Hmm.
Could be that's just the thing. It could be somebody rear-ended you, and even though nobody was hurt, you don't feel good since, that you have never been able to recover or sleep well. Or so when we talk about physical stress, it could be on any level, and it still doesn't have to feel like it's an emotion or a cognitive thing. It can feel very physical, like a pain or a tension or a stomach ache or nausea. It could be indigestion, could be constipation, could be diarrhea. Those are all signs of problems with there. And on a biological level, you can follow the path of what chemical secretion
Sure.
process got
Well,
blocked.
it would be, I think of physical as, I fell down and rolled my ankle, I have a fracture, like that's a very physical stress.
Hmm.
That's an obvious, see it
Hmm.
on an x-ray. But even under grocery shopping and reaching and turning is enough to strain a muscle that starts that process. And recovering may be more difficult because of other contributors to that stress.
Right. Usually, so what you describe, like rolling your ankle, like a sprain or strain, is an acute stress. It's a finite moment, a pinpoint moment that just turns you right instead of left,
Mhm.
and you have to deal with that moment. But most of us are dealing on a regular basis with some sort of chronic stress, and most of them are cumulative. There's lots of them happening. It's the smoke in the air from fires and you're trying to breathe through a mask. It's the being stuck in your house for hours at a time and not exercising. That's a stress. It could be your financial worries. It could, other things that are happening. It could
Sure,
be
it
I'm
is
reaching for,
cumulative.
yeah, I'm reaching for potato chips and licorice instead of eating a proper meal because I'm busy. And so all of those accumulate, even if we're not conscious of them. And some of them are habits, some of them are things that are external to you, and some of them are things that are just even how you're wired, how your body, what your body can do genetically. And so when you put all that together, and then you have this one more thing, then these chronic stressors can become a big thing. And then sometimes that becomes the noticeable part where you ignore all the other things.
Yes.
Wow, I have a, and I have this that happen a lot. I have people say, well, I have a headache. Well, how often do you have a headache? And then they think about it or they track it and they're like, oh my gosh, I have a headache every day. Whereas it kind of crept on them, and they just thought,
Right.
oh, I have a headache, but they did, and they took an aspirin or Tylenol or whatever, and they were fine. And they just never thought, oh my God, I'm doing that every day. Well, now the liver's stressed from the drugs that they're taking every day, and then that stresses the hormones, and then that stresses the digestion, and then, so
It's a chain reaction really
chain
that's happening.
reaction. Yeah.
And all they really maybe needed was water because they were dehydrated, as she.
Very possible, or heat, or maybe they're anemic and they need some circulation.
Right? Yeah.
So yes, there's a lot of different factors, and that brings you to like third phase. So third phase is not only conscious, but also things are accumulating. You're not able to do things you used to be able to do, or the things that work to recover your stress aren't working as well, or holding you or recovering you. And then there's the fourth stage, which is utter complete collapse. It's crash. And that is the diagnostic level with standard medicine. So then you, like for adrenals, the adrenals are the ones we know the most. That's when you test the adrenals and you have Cushing's or Addison's disease, and your adrenals are either turned on continuously or turned off continuously. And so that's harder to repair from than 3 or 2 or 1. And so when you hit that stage and you can finally diagnose your problem, you have actually just gone so far in your stress accumulation that now you have to pick it apart and you have to restore and restore and restore. And those kind of people, and I see this a lot in like fibromyalgia, is those kind of people, the first minute they start to feel an improvement, they go and spend it. They go and use it all up again. And they do exactly what they used to do because they miss doing that. And then they just undermine themselves and lose it all again. So it's like this roller coaster like this. And especially in that case, but chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, those kind of conditions of physical stress, especially that also in turn affect the emotional state at that point. Um, my advice to them is do little bits and recover, little bits and recover. Do not, you cannot be the person you were. You should not be. Nobody should be.
Right.
Nobody should be that. So then
Right.
we look at where we are now in life in modern times. I mean, we've got two parents working. We're worried about what's going on with the kids or wherever they are, or having someone else raise the kids essentially at school. And then you add in the economy and politics and all the media, and you're just daily, I got to cook dinner, I got to take care of the pets, and and we are feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, we're not running from bears, but
Sometimes it's stressful just trying to decide what you're going to make for dinner.
yeah, there's that. There's that. You're standing in front of in the grocery store in front of 17 brands of bread. It's like I honestly, I'm one of those people. I'm like, why can't I just have two choices?
Yeah.
Pick one, you know.
Yeah. Too
Although I
many
like choice, believe me, I like choice, especially if I don't like the choices in front of me. But yeah, sometimes it feels ridiculous trying to make those decisions. And and in those respects, some people long for the old ways of doing things where you're physical during the day. As soon as it starts to get dark, you don't have all this artificial light keeping you up all night. You use a candle or a fireplace, or you go to bed and you get lots of sleep, and then you get up when the light comes up. And that's actually, as an animal, as a mammal, is a good rhythm for us. But most of us, especially now with our little phones and pads and tablets and things, we are
we're
seeing
exposed to way
way,
more light.
oh my goodness. And it's not even the right light, it's the blue light, it's the bad light for our vision. So cataracts are going up, eye strain is going up, blindness is going up in young people. And
Well,
those are
I
physical
appreciate having the
stressors.
blue light filter on my
Yes,
phone where I can
yes.
switch it off, and you probably see the reflection
Yep.
of my glasses has the blue light filter. So but you're right. And it's we are always thinking that the past was the good old days. But when we were living those days, we were yearning for something different. We're always looking for something different than what we have. And being satisfied with what we have is um, not what the media tells us. Our, our body could be pretty satisfied
Yeah.
with, you know, the basics: water, food, shelter, heat,
Mhm,
uh, close family,
mhm,
uh, you know, resources. And if you just look at the very primal basics, like an animal, most of us have that. It's
mhm,
there are some food insecure folks
mhm,
there, you know, and being able to afford heat and light and or cool if it's really warm where you are,
mhm.
you know, and be a little bit more adaptable. But it's the yearning for all the superfluous extras that are not necessarily needs but wants.
Well, and yeah, we have been driven that a great deal lately. I'd say definitely in the past couple of decades. Well, probably from I'm going to say since the 50s, 40s and 50s, and then forward. But I mean, think about it. If you had to make biscuits from scratch, or you could buy biscuits pre-made and save time, if you could, I mean, I am a huge fan of electricity because I like my electric sewing machine really, really
Yes.
well. And I like all my, appliances and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where it started. It started with how can we make life more convenient for you?
Mhm.
But we didn't stop
Refrigeration.
there. But we didn't refrigeration is magical. So, but we didn't stop there, right? So we kept on going, kept on going. So now we're dealing with packaging and issues with too much plastic and waste and plastic bags all over the place, and decimating the trees from using paper bags from shopping. And it's just, it's, we've gone too far. So I think in a lot of ways, if we come back to what I want, what I need, you start with your basics: food, shelter, security. Okay. And then go from there as far as what else would make my life easier, and then ask yourself, anything after that, does this stress me? I mean, a lot of people, and I know a number of people where they have beautiful houses and great cars and go on vacations, but oh my god, they have to pay for that. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so now they have a bill that they're absolutely locked into, and heaven forbid they lose their job. Heaven forbid that they get sick or injured or something where they can't work, because now their stress is just escalated. I
Right.
have not found, in general, a wealthy person any less stressed than a non-wealthy person, simply because the bills are bigger and they just have to
There's
work hard.
it seems like there's a bit more responsibility with that extra funds. There just
It's
seems,
more tapping of those, yes.
yeah, yeah,
um, a lot of changes in our culture, and I'm talking global, have gone from very physical things to very more mental things as far as what we do. So we got a lot of people doing technology and things on the computer and
far
using a
less
lot of that.
physical work.
Yes, a lot less physical work. So it's the difference in going to college versus the trades in a lot of
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
And and so that's creating a stressor in the sense that when we don't have access to some of those, I'm watching, like, the fires in California, and people have to evacuate suddenly. I mean, they want everybody on solar and electricity, and they tell everybody you must have an electrical car, but then a fire occurs and you have to evacuate and your car's not charged. Now what? So
Right. No,
so
it's
so
absolutely true.
so we're
Yes.
doing really stupid things sometimes. And you need electricity to turn on the solar, and to even utilize that. So it's just
Right.
bizarre, some of the things that are going on. But uh if we need a balance with that, we need a balance of physical. So sure, go to the gym to exercise. Well, now the gyms are closed. Well, minimize, let's put it that way, minimize. You can't use the bathrooms, you can't use the showers, but you can use the machines, and you're very far apart from one another. And I don't know, the gyms aren't going to survive that way. So then people are going to start buying exercise equipment to do at their home, and like they did before. And
Mhm.
then it'll be like, well, that's not very useful right now, I got to go do this physically because I can't hire someone. And so, or people, like, certain foods not available, how do you make something from scratch? How do you do gravy? Does everybody know how to make gravy? That's a stress.
It is.
Do you know how to do a homemade roast like your grandma did? Not everybody.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. And I'm not saying everybody should. No, not everybody's a cook. Not everybody's a doctor. Not everybody.
We all have
Uh, we all
we
have
all have
skills.
strengths.
We all have
And
superpowers.
right. And when I look at how do we, in this last 10 minutes or so, how
Hmm.
do we overcome and adapt? And what's the takeaway from physical stress is, walk, for exercise. That is, when I worked in cardiology, the cardiologist believed that that was the single best exercise because not everyone could get to the swimming pool because that was their second best. But walking uh, for fitness was their single best exercise. Uh, it's a weight bearing exercise. It gets your cardio up a bit. Not everybody's a runner, I do not run unless there is some,
Well, so there's a bear.
emergency. And then,
Yeah.
as long as I run faster than the person behind me, I'll be fine and the bear will get them. But, I just don't. I am not capable. That is not in
So
my DNA.
so that's a good point. So if you physically, your legs can move, I agree. Walking is the number one. It's free. You can do it from your house to your mailbox. You can do it around your house. You can do it around inside the house. So it doesn't depend on weather. You can take it a step further. And if you have a nature to go into, that takes it even better. You can go a step further and go barefoot and be grounded in nature, at least in the good weather. Okay. Grounding to your earth does help. It actually, we are electromagnetic beings. It actually truly does ground you, like your own wiring in your house. It grounds you and it will discharge things that accumulate for you. So that is actually very good. The second thing, and this doesn't depend on whether you can walk or not, is breathing. If you breathe short and shallow repeatedly, you can actually make yourself anxious. You can actually, if you breathe just from here up, which a lot of people do, you can, those short breaths will make you acidic. It changes your pH in your blood. It actually starts aggravating things. It escalates pain and inflammation, but it will also make you anxious. So even if you've been anxious all day long, if you go, oh, I need to take 5 deep breaths, and you do that, and you breathe down into your belly button. No, you really can't breathe air into your belly button, but that's what it feels like when you're
Yeah.
taking in that deep breath. And then you exhale slowly as you can. Doesn't matter what your lung condition is. Okay. You do that 5 times. Your pH of your blood changes alkaline. It actually relaxes all the tiny little muscles between your ribs. Between your ribs, there are muscles. They're like this
Oh,
big,
yeah.
short.
They
Okay.
crisscross.
Yeah. And as a massage therapist too. So all of those help relax and open the diaphragm. And then you can actually sit better. Your posture is better. You feel more relaxed. Blood flows better
Mhm.
to your brain. We need it to our brain. And so walking, breathing, and you don't have to meditate, although of course there are whole disciplines
Oh,
that you
yeah.
can go into that with
Sure.
that. So I recommend 5 deep breaths whenever you think of it, or whenever you feel stressed of any physical or emotional or mental. 5 deep breaths. A lot of us, because we're not oxygenating, we can't even focus on what we're doing. We can't think. We're foggy. We get our words all jumbled up. So sometimes just 5 deep breaths. And then the next step is look at your sleep patterns. We are mammals that are supposed to be following the sun cycle. So 10 p.m. is actually a really good bedtime. And then at dawn or around 6-ish is a really good wake up time. So what are you doing? Ask yourself what you're doing. And if you're staying up to midnight, 1 a.m., YouTube, tablet, music, it doesn't matter how wonderful it is. Try to back it off a half hour at a time. Bring it back as far as bedtime. Bring it back half an hour. And absolutely never, ever sleep with your phone near your head. If it's in your room, put it on airplane mode or turn it off.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I understand, because sometimes I want to wake up with an alarm and I like to use my phone as that alarm. But I strongly do not recommend that, because that is affecting your brain waves while you're sleeping, and that actually takes you out of that proper deep sleep rest. Besides the who knows what it's doing to your brain. So I recommend.
we'll take the 6 feet distance to a whole new level and put your phone
Yes,
away from you by 6 feet.
yes, very good
Uh,
advice.
and
Yeah.
and that'll also get you up and out of the bed to turn off the alarm, as I'm
Yeah.
one of those that likes to, uh,
Uh-huh.
hit the snooze on the next the
Yeah.
alarm cycle. So,
So sleep,
wonderful suggestions.
definitely for that. And then water, hydration. A lot of people think, oh, I'm drinking juice, I'm drinking Gatorade, I'm drinking tea, I'm drinking coffee. No, 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 no. The only thing that could count as water is herbal tea. But everything else dehydrates you. So if you're going to drink any beverage that's sugar or caffeine, you need to follow it with a glass of water, and then you've mitigated any dehydration that's going to occur and any imbalance in the body with that. Even if you like I like to drink my coffee in the morning, but I only have
Mhm.
1 cup, rarely 2. And I make sure the rest of my day is either herbal tea or water. And I don't wait until bedtime to drink water because I don't want
Oh,
to
then you're up
stay up
all,
all.
yeah.
I hate doing that. But I know a lot of jobs, at least, especially for like teachers and students, where they couldn't leave the classroom a lot. They always got in trouble if they left often. A lot of them didn't even drink all day long because they didn't want to leave to go to the restroom, and that's actually very unhealthy. So in those situations, even sipping is helpful because you
Sure.
don't want to be dehydrated, because that also affects us very physically, cognitively, energy wise. At the very least, that helps that, and it makes us accumulate our own body waste, which is toxic to us. So then we get these toxic headaches.
Right.
So water,
I
like you said, with
remember,
a headache.
yeah, I remember, the in vogue thing to do right now is a lot of these, I'm going to call them bubbly waters. So the fizzy water,
Seltzers.
flavored fizzy
Mhm.
water, seltzers, and things like that.
Yeah.
My own personal experience was drinking some of those, and maybe two or three of them, because gosh, they taste really good and they're good for me because they're water. But the carbonation for me actually pulled the minerals,
Yes.
and I started having muscle cramps. And so I went back to drinking my mineral water.
Mhm.
If I'm going to have a fizzy water, because it feels kind of special when it's fizzy. And that is usually my evening bubbly fizzy whatever, but
Mhm.
it's just a water. But like you, a coffee and then some type of tea, herbal tea, lemon tea, peppermint,
Mhm.
kind of depends on my mood for the day. And then I'll switch to water after that. But yeah, not much past 8 o'clock, because otherwise it's, welcome to being up every 2 hours to pee, because I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and a lot of people avoid water sometimes because it does make them pee. It washes you clean. It washes you out. So drinking water and peeing more frequently is excellent. but
Yeah,
but a lot of people will try not to drink because they're trying not to urinate, and that's a sad thing. And so when we think, as we go forward in our culture, we need to think about how can we change our habits, our lifestyles, the way we do things, so that these are not stressful, so we can incorporate the basics: water, walking, breathing, sleeping. I mean,
right. And
and
for
we've let
yourself
those
and for
go.
the
They're like after effect
right.
these days.
And that would be for yourself and those that you care for.
Yes, yes. A lot of women, and I'm going to say this specifically about women, is that they are the hub of their family. Everything is either driven by or circles around, usually the woman in the family, because she's either working, raising the kids, or taking care of the household, or doing all of those. And the husband, I'm not saying he's not doing those things. I'm just saying that there's often a little bit more as far as involvement in these different things.
Right.
And and so they tend to do for everyone else first and themselves last.
Hmm.
And the problem with that is, if everyone depends on you and you crash, everyone crashes.
Right.
So, it's like, mom, where's this? Mom's, where's that? Where's dinner? When's dinner? When are we going to do? How do we eat? How do we cook? And so and I'm not saying every family is like that, because a lot of families have balanced that all out. But yeah, and if dad's not used to do that, then he has to step in, and that stresses him. And then he could,
Sure.
so it's a cascade of events. And so taking care of yourself first really does matter. And those are some very basic things. There are some great herbs you can do, but you got to figure out where the stressor is. Is it inflammation? Is it pain? Is it digestive? Is it adrenal? Is it my emotional state? Is it simply, and take out what's stressing you? Is it just reading the news every freaking day? Is it your 17 cups of coffee or your triple latte espresso thing? Is it not drinking the water? Is it eating sugar? You ate a good meal all day long, and then snack time at bedtime, you're like, oh, I need popcorn. Oh, I need, ice cream or something like that, especially in hot weather. That's a big one that people get into,
Yeah.
that they don't normally do, but hot weather gives them permission. And then they do this thing that can actually wake you up at night, especially if you're doing it in the evening, because the blood sugar
Right.
crashes and then elevates, and or elevates and then crashes, excuse me. And so then
Oh,
you
yeah.
wake up and your body
That
says,
glass of wine before
glass
bed
of wine,
is a
alcohol.
really popular one to
Yep.
create a sleep problem. So,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
well,
So
Dr.
you got to
Grobe,
think about what to take out. Yeah.
I do know I'm starting to see articles written now about how so many people are asking for in-home uh, medical care, and I'm going, oh gosh, this is right in line with the rest of the world is kind of finding that we're going to go back to house calls, and I think that's pretty exciting actually. Um, as a first responder for 20 years, I got invited by 911 into someone's home and could see how they live. And that's a lot of information that you get to not only with their emergency, but get to relay to people that take care of them. And I think we really, I view this time as kind of a reset, but I also think that we get to learn and take these really good lessons, like getting back to the basics and taking good care of ourselves and others. But being able to phone the doctor and say, is it possible for you to see me on Zoom
Mhm.
or do a house call? And I think that is, I'm really excited for that to happen, because I think we've lost a lot of continuity of care because we haven't been able to spend as much time as needed with our caregivers, the caregiver with the
Oh yeah, that
practitioner, the
little
doctor, the
15-minute
naturopath,
thing.
the acupuncturist. And so I'm very
Yeah.
excited for you.
Mhm.
Um, and I encourage anyone that has a medical concern, if you're here in the Pacific Northwest or elsewhere, Dr. Grobe is available to consult with. Um, drmystique.com, and her phone number 360-527-2812. And I am doing biofeedback and other wonderful things. So it's
Yes. And my website is Dr. Grobe, DRGROBE at gmail.com. And phone is okay, but I prefer Zoom for like checking in with people, naturopathic
yeah,
kinds of things. But I am doing house calls because I think that's most, in the current situation, friendly as far as minimizing exposure to anyone except me. I'm the only one that's at risk at that point.
yeah.
But I'm well armed because I've been doing hygiene and sterilization and all that for my entire practice. And so that's an easy thing actually for me to manage.
Yes.
And
I'm
so, yeah, so you
I'm
do that.
also very aware, as some of the studies are coming out, that they're figuring that they need to block the organisms from going into the nose. And I'm giggling the whole time because this is something that we talked about early on back in
Mm-hmm.
January, was doing some sort of ointment or something in the nose so that nothing can stick into the
Yep.
respiratory tract.
Yep.
So, it's pretty great.
Yeah. Again, some of those old techniques
Yes,
are very handy in the current times.
they
So,
are. Thank you so much.
yes,
Enjoy
thank
your
you.
Friday and your weekend,
Yes.
and we'll talk again.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.